Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a legal battle that's been raging for, about 2,000 years. We're going to unpack the brilliant and, yeah, sometimes totally bewildering logic of the Talmud. So, at the very heart of this whole thing is a classic dilemma, right? Picture this. You've got this super important, time-sensitive religious duty you have to do, but you're in a state that strictly forbids you from participating. So what wins? That's the puzzle we're going to try and crack today. Okay, so our story really kicks off with this incredibly bold, kind of controversial ruling. It sets the stage for a legal showdown for the ages. But first, let's get to know the two main players in this conflict. First up, you've got the sacred duty. This is the Paschal offering. Think of it as a huge, once-a-year sacrifice. And here's the kicker. A key part of the whole ritual was that the person who brings the offering, well, they have to actually be able to eat from it. Remember that. It's going to be super important. And on the other side, we have the ritual taboo, ritual impurity. Specifically, we're talking about impurity from coming into contact with a corpse. It's a temporary state, but it basically blocks you from participating in sacred stuff. And, most importantly for our story, it stops you from eating sacrificial offerings. You can already see where this is going, right? A total collision course. So you think, okay, pretty simple. If you're impure, you can't eat it, so you can't bring the offering, right? Well, wrong. A really prominent school of thought, these guys called the Elders of the South, they come out with this totally shocking ruling. They say, look, even if you're impure from a corpse and you absolutely cannot eat the sacrifice, you can still send your offering to the temple. This one statement, this is the thesis that kicks off the whole debate. All right, so as soon as this ruling drops, the Gemara, which, is the main analytical part of the Talmud, it immediately stands up and says, hold on a minute. Think of the Gemara as the prosecutor in our little legal drama here. And its first move, it goes straight for the top, testing this new ruling against the ultimate authority, the Bible itself. So, the Gemara pulls out its first piece of evidence, Exhibit A. It's a verse from the Book of Numbers, and it seems totally crystal clear. If you're impure, you just wait a month and do the offering then. Case closed, right? But the elders' defense is, well, it's fascinating. They basically say, yeah, that's the ideal way to do it. That's the best case scenario. But, and this is the key, it's not an absolute deal breaker. If you send it in the first month anyway, it still counts. It's such a subtle distinction, but it's incredibly powerful. But the Gemara isn't just going to roll over. It comes back with another verse, this time from Exodus. And this one says, the offering is counted according to his eating. I mean, the implication seems pretty obvious. No eating, no counting. But the elders, they just stick to their guns. They use the exact same logic. They say, yep, being able to eat is also part of the ideal plan. But if you can't, it doesn't retroactively kill the sacrifice. Okay, so the Gemara tried to land a knockout punch with direct quotes, and it didn't quite work. So now it gets a lot more sophisticated. It changes tactics. Instead of focusing on what the verses say, it starts attacking how they're put together. And this is where things get really, really interesting. So check out this next line of reasoning. It's a great example of deep Talmudic logic. The Gemara points out that in the verse, the words for counting and eating are right next to each other. Now, everybody agrees that getting counted properly is a non-negotiable. You mess that up, the whole thing's invalid. So the Gemara's argument is, hey, since eating is literally sitting right next to counting in the text, it must be just as essential. It's this super clever argument based on textual real estate. And the elders' response here is, it's kind of stunning in how simple it is. They don't even bother trying to argue the logic. They just reject the whole premise. They basically say, sorry, we just don't buy it. We don't believe that just because two words are next to each other, they automatically have the same legal weight. They're flat out refusing to play by the Gemara's rules. All right, so direct quotes didn't work. Deep textual analysis didn't work. So what does the Gemara do? It pulls out its trump card, a legal precedent. It brings in a ruling from another super important text, the Mishnah, and this one looks like it's going to be a knockout blow. It seems to just completely directly contradict what the elders are saying. So here it is. The high priest had this golden front plate, right? And it had this special power. It could kind of smooth things over for offerings that had certain impurity problems. But this text from the Mishnah says crystal clear that the front plate does not work for impurity of the body. And that sounds exactly like our case, right? Impurity from a corpse. And this really looks like checkmate. The elders say the offering is valid, but the Mishnah says the one thing that can maybe make it valid, that front plate, doesn't even apply here. It really feels like the argument is over. Done. But we're talking about the Talmud here. And just when you think an argument is dead and buried, a defender comes along with this absolutely brilliant reinterpretation that just flips the entire case on its head. And here it is, the big twist. Everyone, including the Gemara, assumed that the Mishnah was talking about the owner of the sacrifice being impure. But the defense for the elders stands up and says, nope, you've misread the whole thing. That Mishnah isn't about the owner. It's about a totally different situation. It's about the officiating priest having a much lesser kind of impurity. I mean, wow. By just changing who the sentence is about, they completely dodge the contradiction. It's an absolutely incredible legal move. But is it legit? I mean, you can't just reinterpret a text whenever you're in a corner. The Gemara, of course, immediately pounces. It's ready to see if this new reading actually makes sense with everything else we know. The fight is definitely not over yet. And from here, the debate just goes even deeper. I mean, they start arguing about these super rare, 1 in a million edge cases, like something called impurity of the depths. That's when a hidden corpse is found after everything is already done. And they keep testing the elders' new idea against questions from other famous sages. The point is, they're pressure testing this position from literally every single angle you could possibly imagine. So you might be wondering, what is the point of all this back and forth? Well, it's because it reveals this totally unique way of thinking. See, the goal isn't really to find out who was right and who was wrong. The real goal is the journey, the analysis itself. What we've just walked through is the Talmudic method, right there in action. You start with a big, bold claim, the elders' ruling. Then you just attack it relentlessly. You hit it with scripture, you hit it with deep logic, you hit it with legal precedents. And the defense? It has to be just as sharp, just as creative, finding brand new ways to look at the same evidence. The whole process is designed to exhaust every single possibility and to expose all the hidden assumptions behind every argument. You know, in the end, what the final ruling even is becomes almost secondary. The real value, the real treasure is in that rigorous, exhaustive, creative process of the argument. It's a system that forces you, it demands that you define your terms, defend your logic, and seriously consider every single alternative. And I don't know, in a world that seems to love quick, easy answers, there's something pretty powerful about a tradition that believes the deepest truths are found not in the answer, but in the argument itself.